Leadership Conference, led by an organizer from Atlanta, has been marching to protest the conviction and sentence of a retarded black man, Tommy Lee Hines, for the rape of a white woman. The marchers have been confronted by members of the Ku Klux Klan, led by an organizer from Louisiana, and there has been violence. 2 weeks ago, 4 persons were shot, 2 whites and 2 blacks, during a march broken up by the Klan. There were not enough police on hand to prevent violence. Longtime Decatur residents say the city is caught in the middle between 2 groups, led by outsiders, which need confrontation for survival.
I feel like if the Klan had stayed away, the whole thing would have long been forgotten. SCLC, I don't know their purposes. I felt like they used it to develop some support in this area.
Look like both sides wanting publicity and notoriety. That's the way it seems to me. This is a pretty good town. So few of the people actually involved in this confrontation.
The march by blacks, which ended in violence here 2 weeks ago, was to have been the last led by SCLC. There simply did not appear to be enough interest in the Tommy Lee Hines case to continue. But now the Klan has given the SCLC a clear issue: the right to protest peacefully, no matter how unpopular the cause, without the fear of violence. City officials say they are ready now to protect that right. Kenley Jones, NBC News, Decatur, Alabama.
Costs keep going up. We're operating with the same rates. Even the people that are against the rate increase in the amounts that we requested realize and suggest to the Public Service Commission that they act and give us a substantial rate increase. So we are asking them to just take heed and act responsible in that situation.
The Public Service Commission has indicated that it will probably try and make a decision in their July monthly meeting. Is that not soon enough for the power company? That's still before the July 19th deadline.
Well, the situation is so critical. We are in effect prohibited, cannot raise any new money in any form. And our service is going to deteriorate to the people in this state. It's absolutely essential that this company be allowed the ability to borrow money. We cannot do that now. So all these cutbacks, and with the increasing usage of electricity coming up this summer, we're just facing a critical situation.
The Public Service Commission concluded its second day of hearing South Central Bell telephone witnesses argue for the need of a $63 million increase in consumer rates. The telephone company called 6 witnesses to the stand despite the fact that they had submitted the testimony of 9. Most of the witnesses, mostly company accountants, are trying to show the PSC that its rate of return is diminishing due to inflation, that its rate design needs revision because of inflation, and that its affiliate costs with the Bell system are continuing to be pushed up by inflation. In general, they're saying that their rates need to be pushed up themselves to meet inflation. As with most utility rate cases, there's the possibility that they'll be drawn out over a long period of time. Already, more hearing dates have been chosen, meaning that witnesses will have to make a second trip to the PSC offices so they can be cross-examined by the Attorney General assistants who did not have time to prepare for these hearings. They'll also be cross-examined by the other intervenor attorneys. The PSC set themselves a deadline to meet in making this decision, but that deadline doesn't occur until November 28th, 6 months from now. After the utility witnesses are cross-examined in these additional hearings, which will be during the week of July 23rd, even more hearings will have to be set up so that the intervenor witnesses can provide their direct testimony, even more hearings beyond that for their cross-examination. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
We have 3 particular points in this particular seminar. That is to express or articulate 3 particular principles which has made America a great nation. 1, faith in God, constitutional government, and private enterprise. We're trying to give our students from 6 different states speakers from 2 other states a better concept of what's made America great from these particular points of view, from the history and from the present operation of America. Thank you.
"36 employees of Brockway Glass Company are being sued for breach of contract and inducing others to breach contracts. The workers have been protesting what they say are hazardous working conditions within the confines of the glassware products manufacturing plant operated by Brockway Glass Company. They charge plant supervisor Gary McDole has been harassing them, and they have said their picketing will continue until that supervisor is removed. The suit charges the workers with engaging in an illegal wildcat strike beginning on June 2nd. Furthermore, the suit says workers also engaged in unlawful picketing, which had the effect of discouraging other employees from reporting to work. The company says as a result of this action, they had to close the Montgomery plant, losing more than $750,000. Brockway Glass is seeking $20,000 in damages against each of the 36 workers named in the suit, for a total of $720,000 in actual and punitive damages. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News.
Montgomery police believe they may have identified one of several suspects in the shooting death of a Salvation Army store employee last month, but they can't prove it. Police Chief Charles Swindle says charges won't be brought against a 16-year-old black juvenile arrested earlier in connection with the May 10th shooting of 68-year-old Henry Wilhoit. Swindle says 6 witnesses changed their testimony at a hearing which would have certified the youth as an adult to face prosecution. And without their statements, the police don't have any evidence. Swindle adds the investigation is far from over.
We have about 15 of the investigators in robbery and homicide assigned to this case, and as you can see, this is the results of the investigation, the testimony, the statements, the background investigations, and we're going to continue this investigation. We think there's more than one individual involved in it, and whatever part any individual played in this robbery and murder is as guilty as the principal, the one that pulled the trigger.
Paul Roth, WSFA TV News.
The accusations of improprieties focus on aptitude tests given to possible Army recruits. Computer analysis shows irregularities in test scores. So Recruiting Command believes some Army recruiters may be giving prospective soldiers the answers to some parts of the tests. The Army has put together a task force of 26 officers and enlisted men to check into the charges. Members of the group will be interviewing, reviewing documents, and taking sworn statements. An Army spokesman says some recruits may be getting illegal aid without knowing that it's illegal. The spokesman says he doesn't know whether the violations are linked to pressure on recruiters to build up the volunteer army. But he did say that if a recruiter is found guilty of violations, he could be reassigned or possibly court-martialed. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News, reporting.
There's a possibility there's one or two boys out here who could play. If a boy doesn't have professional ability right now, what do? We try to recommend him to some college. Because there's a lot of college coaches always calling us up, and we try to help the coaches and try to help the kid to get a scholarship.
How long will you be here in Troy working?
Just one day at Troy. We go from here, we go to Mobile, Alabama, and from there we go to Jackson, Mississippi, and have one there. And from Jackson, Mississippi, we go to Long Beach, Mississippi. Then from Long Beach, we go to Baton Rouge and have one. From Baton Rouge, we go to Ruston, Louisiana.
This is the fourth year for the Alabama River Raft Race, and today the weather was nearly perfect as thousands of people flocked to the banks of the Alabama River. Many came here to race, but a lot more came just to party.
The raft race is a joint venture by the Twin Rivers JCs and WHHY Radio. The proceeds go for various local civic projects. Over 160 rafts entered today's race, which covered a 10-mile course down the Alabama River from Riverfront Park to the Washington Ferry Landing. But most of the people were here to enjoy the sun, the food, and the scenery. An estimated crowd of 20,000 was, for the most part, well-behaved, and there was some security on hand for good measure. The people were all ages and shapes. And there were even some non-humans taking in the sights, and everyone seemed to be having a good time.
Hey, I love it, man. I'm having a great time. There's a lot of people out here. Everybody's having a good time. And floats are coming in slow, but they're coming.
Yeah? Where are you from?
Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
All right, this is just a big party, huh?
Yeah, it's nice, man. I'm glad I made it. I'll be back next year for sure.
Michael Jones, WSFA TV News on the banks of the Alabama River.
We always anticipate problems. I have always stated it. That's why we've always gone armed. The only instance where we have gone unarmed in Alabama was 2 weeks ago. I feel that the police probably unwittingly tipped off the Negroes that we were unarmed, and I really feel that that's why we were attacked, because they knew we were unarmed. They know our policy on self-defense, and they know that we're not afraid to carry it out. And we don't intend to ever come down and say that we're unarmed again.
Thank you, Gil. And I think there's many of you that see no 40 or 50 dogs. There'll be a few, perhaps a few dogs. I assess that we have good race relations in this city, because today, this is not a racial thing. It's not like your 1960s. This is two organizations. And I feel that we have good race relations in this city. The city of Decatur is not a redneck community. The city of Decatur is not a racist community. It has never been. Arrest.
The Alabama Association of Women Highway Safety Leaders meets every year. Then the members return to their communities all over the state and try to implement new safety programs. Agnes Mills is the group's president.
We're trying to promote highway and traffic safety to cut down on the deaths and the terrible accidents that are happening on our streets and the highways, especially through Alabama. Of course, we know it's happening everywhere, but we're interested in our own state. We're trying to educate and inform the women and men in the ways to use highway and traffic safety. We have two projects today that we're especially trying to get them to set up in their own cities. And one of them is You and Your Driving, which teaches the ladies something about the maintenance and care of their car. And then this afternoon we will have child restraint, trying to teach the young women that to have a child restraint in their car even when they go home from the hospital with their baby.
Mrs. Mills says some other safety problems are railroad crossings and unsafe vehicles. She says State Senator Pat Vaca, who spoke to the group, has been trying to pass a vehicle inspection law for years. Mrs. Mills says she can't understand why the proposal meets such opposition. She doesn't know why anyone would want to drive an unsafe car. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
hit, 1-0. One run, one hit, one error. Instead of 2 complete innings of Maxwell. Good way.
It rises out of the ground at the Woodley Road Southern Bypass intersection. The water tower is being built by the Universal Tank Company from Indianapolis, Indiana for the Montgomery Water Board. It will be the largest water tower of its type in the state when completed. Right now, the tower is 78 feet tall, on its way to a finished height of 184 feet. 2 million gallons of water will fill the tank, which will serve South and Southeast Montgomery. A new tower was needed to meet the growing demands for water from the increasing population. This area currently gets its water from the tower by Alabama State University. When the new project is complete, the 2 towers will provide a total of 3 million gallons of water. The $1.4 million job is scheduled for completion by early November. Michael Jones, WSFA TV News.
The program involves all 22 residents of the Brantwood Home for Neglected and Dependent Children. The teens meet in encounter groups where they discuss academic problems and set goals. They also set up their own community through which they prepare meals and do chores. Martha Nachman is president of the board at Brantwood.
There was a crying need in this community to reach children who were not being served by the public school system. Children who were acting out in the classroom, children who were unable to be a part of public education, not because they lacked the ability to learn, but as Mrs. Moore said, because they lacked the basic skills and the basic tools, and perhaps they were behind on their grade level. A 15-year-old boy sitting in a 4th grade desk is not very comfortable for him or for the other students.
Mrs. Nachman and the Home's director have found support for the program from Governor James and his education advisor.
Find it new, innovative, and exciting, particularly since it's geared to prepare children to go back into the public school system and to do well once they get there. I think this program will very likely could prove a model for something that we can expand, perhaps even on a statewide basis. So I simply requested the Montgomery school system to supply a teacher.
When this 8-week program is over, administrators hope the children will be able to return to public schools. If it's successful, they may be able to expand the program to help teens who don't live at the Brantwood Home. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
Good pitch!
The city of Decatur is returning to normal after what could have been an eruption of violence. The credit for maintaining order is being claimed by state, county, and local law enforcement agencies.
I have no reservation that the amount of personnel, the show, and our intent did have a definite effect on this outcome.
Preparation for Saturday's marches was extensive. Days before the event, plans were being made and personnel were assembled. Early on Saturday morning, state troopers, National Guardsmen, county sheriff deputies, city police, alcoholic beverage control board agents, and untold others made their way to City Hall. Several helicopters arrived to observe the marches from the air. About 500 uniformed officers were used. The Ku Klux Klan assembled several blocks from City Hall at an old train depot. There, they dressed in the traditional white hooded robe, while troopers and other law enforcement officers positioned themselves along the route. Not only was the ground covered, but also the rooftops. Sharpshooters with rifles and cameras kept watch from surrounding buildings. The march began.
White power! What do we have? White power! What do we want? White power! What do we have? White power! What do we want? White power!
The Klan marched to City Hall, and like magnets, the troopers followed. There were the traditional white power speeches.
We know that we are ready, and we know regardless of what the officials in Decatur say, the population of Decatur is behind the Ku Klux Klan.
Around noon, the Klan finished its demonstration. The Grand Wizard moved his followers across the street to, as he put it, monitor the march of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. An hour passed. Law enforcement officers took that time to rest and regroup. As the time approached for the SCLC march, troopers once again formed up and positioned themselves for the second act of this Saturday drama. The second march was much longer and hotter. As the march neared City Hall, the Klan lined the curb. Troopers moved up fast to form a buffer zone between the Klan and marchers. Across this no man's land of news media and troopers flew the traditional racial name-calling of the Ku Klux Klan.
Anybody that told to come this flag ain't nothing but a nigger son of a...
The marchers, estimated at about 2,000, reached the steps of City Hall without incident. Again, there were speeches and cheering. A few locals turned out to watch, but they remained distant. After a while, the Klan left. Law enforcement held its ground until the end of the rally. Afterwards, at a news conference, Decatur Mayor Bill Dukes said he was a happy man. The master plan for control of the marches had worked. When asked what he would have done different, State Trooper Colonel Jerry Shoemaker said he would have given his men more water. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News in Decatur.
The red steeple of the KinderCare Learning Centers is seen all over the United States. There are 345 of the centers, and the company's merger with Mini Schools Limited will bring the total to more than 400. Managers of the mini schools are in Montgomery to meet KinderCare administrators. Perry Mendel started KinderCare in Montgomery in 1968.
The fact that it originated in Montgomery, the fact that we bring people into Montgomery, somehow in the media, Montgomery, Alabama does get mentioned, and so we're very proud of the fact that KinderCare was started in Montgomery, and we feel that Montgomery benefits from the number of people that visit our city from all over North America.
Mendel and Mini Schools President Jerry Benowitz say daycare has come a long way in the past few years. They think their philosophies are compatible. They both believe a daycare center should provide learning rather than just custodial care. Lisa Nielsen, WSFA TV News.
The Alabama Academy of Honor was created by legislative act in 1965. Since that time, 88 Alabama citizens have been inducted. Federal Judge Frank Johnson, Jr., who often found himself on the opposite side of civil rights issues with George Wallace, joined the former chief executive as a member of the Academy. 9 other citizens and Governor Fob James, by virtue of his office, were also inducted. They included R.C. Red Bamberg, former Alabama Development Office Director, Neil Bertie, president of Birmingham Southern College, U.S. Circuit Judge Walter Guin, Mental Health Commissioner Taylor Hardin, House Speaker Joe McCorquodale, Rear Admiral Fran McKee, the first woman to reach flag rank in the Navy, Pratt Rather, president of Southern Natural Gas Corporation, William Rushton III, a Birmingham insurance executive, and Alabama Supreme Court Chief Justice C.C. Bo Torbett. Each year, the Academy inducts 10 members until the number of living members reaches 100. Presiding over the ceremonies was former Governor John Patterson and the director of the State Department of Archives and History, Milo Howard. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News at the Capitol.
Other than we will have a site this fall, and hopefully the latter part of the fall.
Have you sold the bonds yet?
No, we're talking about probabilities because we're not that far down the road, but I would like for a maximum and minimum combination for the Jefferson County area. And my problem is, you know, it's more than just determining where you're going to build a prison, but you also have to look at other things that's very important as to what the inmates are going to do. I do not intend to build a prison for inmates not to do anything. Everyone there will be working at some job, and I think it's very poor planning to build a prison and decide what the inmates are going to do after it's completed and inmates moved in. So all this will be done in advance.
The group charged Police Chief Charles Swindle and Montgomery Mayor Emery Farmer with waging a personal vendetta against black leaders in an effort to cover up sloppy police work in the Salvation Army murder investigation.
They are trying to make us scapegoats for sloppy police work. Mr. Swindle has stated that 6 witnesses failed polygraph tests. We don't know. We were not there. And as far as we know, the witnesses did not have an attorney present. So it is just their word.
Montgomery attorney Donald Watkins represents one of the witnesses in the case. Watkins says his client was intimidated by police.
But the overall point is that he contends he had been harassed, continuously harassed, and that harassment ceased when he retained my services.
One leader says he wants the crime solved, but that personality should be left out.
To see that justice prevails, to see that whoever is responsible for the murder of this particular individual is captured and that they are taken to trial. However, we will not continuously stand by and see the things that have been taking place as it relates to the Montgomery Police Department or as it relates to continuous harassment of black kids in the community. And this is exactly what has been taking place.
In response to the charges today, Police Chief Swindle stuck by his original statement that witnesses in the case were intimidated and that leads in the case were valid. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
Will find me guilty of the charges directed against me. It certainly is my fervent hope, as I am sure all of you know, that the people will reserve their decision in this matter until the time when I can satisfactorily prove my innocence and clear my good name. So that's the statement I'd like to make.
Mr. Lance, are you relieved at all, though, that indictment or no indictment, that the investigation is finally over?